name is Angel Hicks. I am the president of H7 Global Network, and I am sitting here with Kyle Gunn, who is a member of ours with Garber Electric, and he had a fantastic story for his member zone on Friday, and instead of using that time for himself, he shared a story with us for Black History Month. And I want to just honor him and thank him for that story, and I want to share it with all of you. So Kyle, would you like to share your story, please?
Sure. Like Angel said, I'm Kyle Gunn. Anyway, so this is my favorite story in history. It's a story of ingenuity, creativity. Honestly, it's a story of thinking outside of the box, right? So this story begins in 1815, okay? Henry Brown was born in Virginia. He was born into slavery. So we automatically know he's black. Anyway, so as he's growing up, he becomes a really good worker. And his master at that time was dying. So he calls Henry Brown to his bedside, and Henry is thinking, oh, I'm gonna be free, because at that time, a lot of times if your master died, they would set their slaves free. So he gets there, and his master said, you're such a good worker. So, and since you're such a good worker, I value you, not as a person, but I value you because you're my property. So I'm going to give you to my son. So Henry Brown's story actually begins where half of the slaves were set free and the other half were sold to his son. So he was in the one that was sold to his son. I mean, imagine feeling that, like, hey, what happened to you? Well, I'm not free. I'm being sold to his son. Meanwhile, his new master rents him out to a tobacco factory. And he actually had an arrangement where he could actually keep some of the money that he makes at this tobacco factory, right? And while he's there, he's growing up, he meets a woman named Nancy, and they get married. And they loved each other, and they had 3 kids, right? So Henry thinking, okay, my wife is actually owned by another person, another master. So he actually gives part of his paycheck to his wife's master in order to keep her from being sold, right? So it's a good plan. He has a deal worked out where he can stay together as a family unit. And then until one day, while he's working at the factory, he gets the terrible news that his wife and 3 kids were sold at auction. So he's devastated. So what is he going to do? Like, his wife are sold, he can't do anything about it. He can't go back and say, oh, we had a deal worked out. Because technically, at that time, he could do anything he wanted with his property. So Henry says, I'm done. I can't live this way anymore. I have heartbreak after heartbreak. I know that I would like to be free, but instead of that happening, another devastation happens. So he gets this crazy idea. So at that time, the Postal Service was boasting that they will ship anything, anywhere, confidentially, and that it will always arrive at its destination. So Henry has this idea that he is going to ship himself to freedom. Dude literally is going to ship himself in a box to freedom. So he has 2 friends help him, right? He gets a 3-foot by 2-foot. He pays $86 for the shipment. That's about $1,400 in today's time. So he, I'm going to ship myself to freedom, right? Already a crazy idea. So what he does, he just can't call up and be like, I'm sick, I can't come into work. First of all, they didn't have phones, but second of all, he's a slave. He has to go to work. It doesn't matter if he's sick, rain, sleet, or snow. So what he does, he grabs a bottle of oil of vitriol. Okay, now this is not essential oils, that you put in the diffuser. Oil of vitriol is essentially acid. So he gets this bottle and he pours it on his hand until it burns himself to the bone. So that way he can stay home and not go to the factory and get a little more time to make his escape plan. So he does that. His 2 friends put him in the box. They label it, they put on this side up, handle with care, fragile, and then they nail it shut. They seal his fate in that box. And so, just like the Postal Service, today they didn't listen. So part of the time he's actually upside down traveling, the blood is rushing to his head. So Henry Brown he's going to ship himself to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And so he travels by wagon, railroad, steamboat, wagon, railroad, ferry and then another boat ride, and then finally a wagon. So it took 27 hours for him to travel in a box 350 miles. And now it takes us about 4 hours. It'll take 4 hours to do that same trip. And so when we complain about our commute, like our traffic commute, like 27 hours in a box. And so he finally gets there, and Henry Brown, classy as usual, stands up, like they pry open the box, and he says, "How do you do, gentlemen?" So he marched that day, which is March 30th, 1849, as his birthday. So he has his birthday, which is a day of freedom. And so from that point on, he actually becomes an accomplished speaker, speaking out against slavery, and he's an abolitionist. He actually becomes a published author. He writes 2 books, autobiographies. He becomes a traveling magician. He lives part of his time in England. So we could actually say, for all intents and purposes, he lived happily ever after. But why do I tell you that story? Why is this my favorite story? Because I think history provides us with 3 primary goals of history, 3 primary reasons why we study history. One is it teaches us and shows us where we have been, right? It also provides us a glimpse into where we can go in the future. But most importantly, it gives us lessons for today, our present day, our day-to-day. So what lesson can we learn from Henry Box Brown? And I think that lesson is the question we need to ask is, what do you need to do in order to accomplish what you really want to accomplish? So for you, what is your box that you need to climb into in order to gain your freedom? As uncomfortable as it might be, as difficult, as cramped, or you frankly don't want to do it, what is the box that you need to climb into in order to gain your freedom? That's my favorite story.
Isn't that an amazing story, you guys? That is an amazing story. What box do you need to build to take that journey to where you want to be and to gain your freedom? It is an amazing story. I want to thank you, Kyle, for being with us and sharing that story with us. And we hope that you guys get some encouragement out of that and celebrate Black History Month with us next month and every month. So thank you so much again, and we'll see you next time.